Good morning, Nick. Good morning.
Hello, Gary.
Good morning, Gary.
Hi there. I just have a question for Jacob, which is really, how does somebody like yourself in a very privileged position begin to understand the genuine concerns that the average person has in relation to Brexit?
Well, the first thing I'd say is I don't think there's any such thing as the average person. I think everybody is unique and their interests and concerns are unique, and I value people as individuals, not as the collective. And the sort of phraseology average person, ordinary person, is, I think, slightly condescending to people who are all individuals. The second thing I would say is that as a Member of Parliament holding advice bureaus almost every week, many people come to see me and explain what their lives are like, and that it's simply being open to people and understanding and recognising that nobody leads anybody else's life. We all lead our own lives, and we can only have an understanding of other people's lives when they tell us or when we make researches into them, and that's inevitably what I do as a Member of Parliament.
Quick response from you, Gary.
Well, I understand you're saying that you can't categorise people as average, but by that I mean, for example, you may not be aware, but the average salary in this country is £27,000. If, for example, some of the stories we're hearing that food prices might increase, house prices might plummet, the NHS might be in crisis, these are things that are not going to affect you personally, but they will. And when I say the average person, I'm talking about the people that don't have the same wealth as yourself. So I think actually there are people that are average because they may not earn particularly good money, and if their food prices go up, they're going to feel the impacts a huge amount more than you will. If your bill at Waitrose or Marks and Spencer's goes up, you're not going to feel that the same way that the cleaner that cleans your house, for example, will feel when they're at the checkout at their supermarket. So actually I think it does. There are people that fall under that category that are not in the same position as you.
And Gary's call comes as one newspaper, I'm sure you're aware of this, the Daily Mirror reports that you've earned around £500,000 since the EU vote, Mr. Rees-Mogg.
Yes, but not because of the EU vote.
No.
So it's a completely bogus thing. My earnings have remained as they were before the EU vote.
Yes.
So it's a sort of silly story.
That's broadly what you have. I mean, you run a successful city company, and that's what you pay, and that's what blokes and women making that kind of jobs earn.
I set up my own business.
Yeah.
Essentially, I get that for...
But as you say, it's not influenced by the vote.
It's nothing to do with Brexit at all.
Yeah.
But if people want to add my earnings together over an extended period, they come up with a reasonably high figure. But, Gary, you make a very important point.
Because you won't suffer at Waitrose or Asda or wherever you go. Sainsbury's and the same with another food.
I wouldn't begin to pretend to.
No.
But what I think is very important is to understand that leaving the EU will reduce food prices because we won't have to put the very high tariffs on.
It's not at the moment, is it? If you go down the aisles now, it's ticking up almost on a weekly basis.
Partly because we had drought over the summer.
Yes,
and
can't blame
that's
that
not a matter of Brexit, is it? Even the BBC doesn't blame the drought on Brexit. So, Gary, you're absolutely right to raise these points. They are important. And if I thought that Project Fear was right, and had I thought it was right before the referendum campaign, I would have thought very carefully about whether restoring democracy was worth the price that might be paid. But as it happens, I think Brexit is an enormous economic opportunity that will make the least well-off in our society benefit most. Lower food prices, lower clothing, lower footwear, but also reducing the flow of unskilled labour coming into the country, which ought to increase wage rates for the least well-off. So my basis for backing Brexit is that it will be an economic benefit. And the one thing I will be affected by, as of course everybody would be in the country, is house prices. But that was suggested by the governor of the Bank of England, who is quite hysterical about Brexit and can't be taken seriously.
At all? We can't take the governor of the Bank of England?
No, he's a political apparatchik and has taken the governorship of the Bank of England from one where the odd movement of the eyebrows was influencing markets to one where he's a wailing banshee. I don't think it's at all distinguished.
I thought the city breathed a sigh of relief when it was announced he would stay. No?
Not this part of the city didn't.